Welcome Imtiaz bhai once again. It seems like I can't get rid of you. Do I have to get a lawyer to get rid of you now?
Well, thanks very much, Pankaj. It really showing that an interest from your audience in our podcasts and recent inquiries coming to me through your podcast. They're amazing, and I'm really happy that the way people like your podcast and the work you put, the hard work you put into it.
No, thank you, Imtiaz bhai. And I think if the information that it's coming from your side as well, if people didn't find it helpful or they found it something completely different to what others are saying, I think you've also given them information that is not publicly available and something which they can consume to only enhance their life in Ireland as an immigrant. And I think last time, as we discussed, we did a podcast in our regional language. Hence, we decided that, the uptake was really good. So we wanted to make sure, we cover one area per podcast so we can actually go a lot more granular than just kind of touching on each topic. So thank you to you.
Yeah, well, that's very helpful that we speak in English today. It will help not only our South Asian communities, but will also help those people who don't speak English. Because currently, as I said in your previous podcast, that we have clientele from about 80 to 100 countries, and they're interested to see our podcast. They're interested to see the information coming through these podcasts. So it is important that we speak in English, but we're telling our audience who speak Urdu, Hindi that hopefully in near future we will have Urdu or Hindi podcast as well for them.
Yeah. I think, when I'm actually the software that I use, it's a lot easier to do a Hindi or Urdu to English translation. I don't know if the software is smart enough to go from to the other side.
To go from English to
To
Urdu
Urdu.
subtitle, yeah.
Yeah.
Because last time many clients mentioned to me that they watched it, especially clients from Middle East.
Yeah.
They say we did watch it, and I told them that you don't speak Hindi or Urdu, and they said, look, there were subtitles, and they were helpful for them to watch those podcasts.
Yeah. No. Look, I think if I were to be honest, and all the other guests who had come on our show, they were equally good, and they had all bring in their knowledge, skills, and valuable information. But I think it's just the nature of your business as well. I think in, as in this world, we all face a lot of issues with our personal life, or as an immigrant, you don't know where to find information. So I think that's why the uptake was immensely good, and that's why we continue to kind of drill into one topic for every podcast. And as I said, I can't get rid of you. I think I should be saying you probably won't get rid of me now, because our audience need to hear more on these topics.
Absolutely. That's a sort of our coexistence in a profession where we have to pass this knowledge to our audience and and for them to materialize that knowledge. It's very important.
No, 100%. I think even if you look at the census, right, the population census, not I only know about the South Asian community because that's where I put a lot of my focus on. From what I understand, it has grown 3 to 4 folds in the last 4 years, and it's predominantly students, right? But the students are the ones who are actually, there's a huge influx of students. But what is also happens when there's a huge influx of students is a huge influx of student related problems as well, right? So I think in this podcast, what we want to do is we want to cover every single area of student issue as much as we can. And I know you work with numerous and hundreds of cases that you have worked with them in order to resolve them and be able to bring them to a very definitive conclusion. So let's just begin with, a student who has just come to Ireland, who has just gone to a college. There are salespeople everywhere. So maybe, whichever country they've come from, they've been sold a course on the basis that it's the best course, best college. As soon as they arrive here, they find everything to be untrue. Is there an option for students where they come here and they go, you know what, this course is not for me, I want to opt out? Can they opt out, get a admission in a different college and continue to be on that student visa, or do they have to start the process all over again?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as you mentioned, there is a huge influx, and there is a reason behind it. That UK used to be a hot destination for international students, but due to changes in post-work permit in the UK, Ireland was another English-speaking country where many students turned their attention to, and a huge number of students arrived from South America, from Southeast Asia, Far East, and Middle East. And as you rightly mentioned, that not only they brought good things, but they brought lots of trouble with them as well. It starts with the people who normally buy a course, assuming that it really suit their needs and their qualification or profession. But when they come, they end up facing many difficulties, which they realize that that course might not be as good as they thought, and that course may not help them to progress in the profession. So switching courses is not difficult, as long as you provide a valid reason to the department that you can't continue that course due to your background, due to your profession, due to your change in career, so forth. So absolutely, the ministry is very amenable to those sort of application, as long as you can prove that you're a genuine student. You are not only here as an economic immigrant, but you are planning to study, and you comply with all the condition of your student visa. So it is quite easy
But I
to
think your college needs to be accommodating in that scenario as well. They need to also accept that you're not interested in this course. You're not going to be that they can switch your course or they can refund you. Like, do you get cases where people are like extremely irritated, extremely frustrated, and the college is not being helpful by changing their courses or by refunding them? Like, is that like I know it's not a like a common scenario, but are there cases like that?
Well, there are two aspects of this. If you look at it, it's an entry and exit. So once you're entering a new course, you are exiting the current one,
Yeah.
and your current college has to cooperate with you to give you something called an exit letter from your current course.
Yeah.
And as long as you are able to get that exit letter from your current college, then it's easy to get an entry to a new one.
Yeah.
When it comes to issues with fees, and lots of people make inquiries about the refund. So not like it depends on the term and condition every student signing up for. So not every course is refundable, and not every course is non-refundable. So it depends on the condition you sign up for the course. So whenever you are signing up, for all students, you make sure that you read the condition properly, and you understand it accurately. That in case there is switch over from one college to another, is there any entitlement to refund of the fees or not? So it all depends on the term and condition you sign up for.
Yeah, and I think we should also call upon students that to take the responsibility in their hand as well. That they should do the full research, ask all the relevant questions. There are a lot of Facebook pages, Instagram, where they can get all the information about the college, about the course module. So I think the onus is on the student as well as the college to get to fetch all that information beforehand.
Well, the irony is that especially for those South Asian students, initially they want to get visa somehow. It's one way or another. They think that once they get a visa, things become easier, but that's not the case. So before getting a visa, you make sure that the purpose of visa is clear to you as well.
Yeah.
It's not buying a course, getting a visa. It's buying a right course, and you're coming for a right education that help you to progress in future. Otherwise, that's a waste. And I found many people that they got visas for, say, courses in financial services or maybe IT, and they found themselves in difficulties having no background.
Yeah.
And then they say, look, that's not my career. I have to change it to something else. And then they face certain difficulties. And it is very normal.
Yeah.
So I urge all the student that before picking a course, you make sure that course is suiting your need or your career.
I think it may be a short-term pain for a long-term gain. So it may be painful to kind of do the research, or painful to maybe pay a lot more for the course that you're going to enjoy, but at least it's for a long-term gain, right? So the influx, I think the reason again for the influx, not only that the UK has exited EU, but the influx is, I don't see any country in the world where you can do your master's in 8 months. It's the shortest master's ever to be done anywhere in the world. I think it's the shortest form of master's. And then you get a 2-year work permit. Which other country provides that? In UK also, it's a 2-year master course. not 8 months like here.
So it is called TART program actually in academic TART program, which means that a student is required to do his or her own research on a topic they're picking for master program. It is that 8 months means that the student will involve in research or studies which is on their own efforts rather than the college provide.
No, I think it's eight.
Yeah.
8 months is a proper college classes or your
And then you do
physical.
the dissertation,
And then
the
you do
project and
dissertation on
everything.
top of it, yeah.
Yeah. And then of course the entitlement is huge. You get a STEM 1G, which is kind of PSW in the UK, the equivalent of that for 2 years, which is good. Opportunities are huge in Ireland, and naturally Ireland is a country which is mostly FDI based economy, and there is a huge need in financial services, IT services, health services, and other different areas. So of course it's attractive for students. It's attractive for an immigrant generally in the world at the moment.
Yeah, when you're studying, sorry, you're allowed to work 20 hours, and then when you're not working, then you're allowed to work 40 hours. I think a lot of people also have confusion when you have your summer holidays, then you need a letter from the college that you're on your summer vacation or whatever vacation and you're allowed. Or do you think is it once you know you're on holidays, you can tell your employer and then it works right away?
Well, the way it works that the student is entitled to work part-time, which is 20 hours, and in a holidays period or vacation or summer, they're allowed to work full time, which is 40 hours normally, and they're required to produce a letter from their college or any institution they are in to prove that they are now allowed to work full time. So again, it is very important for a student to understand that they should not get involved in full time employment while they're studying, unless and until they're on holidays or they're on summer vacation or something. Because when you're going for renewal, normally you're using your PPS number, and the immigration office has access to social protection, and they can easily see
how many hours you work.
The amount of hours you do every week, and they can simply refuse you by breaching the compliance.
Oh, I didn't even know. Like, I mean, I knew that that they have access to a lot of information. So you're saying they have access to your work history as well?
Absolutely, that's very basic, and it happened to lots of students where they breach their conditions and they find themselves in difficulties because they are initially granted this visa for a study purpose, and they come and they get involved in full-time employment.
Yeah, it looks like it's a 20 hour in college and 90 hours working.
Something like this, yeah. So it's kind of not only they get poor performance in their studies because of this full-time employment, they also get in trouble with their extension of their visas or their residence cards.
So are you saying that they can also refuse 1G on the basis that they can see your work employment history and say that you had worked much longer hours than you were supposed to?
Well, absolutely. Like if you are found to be in breach of any sort of immigration law, you can face difficulties. You can face refusal from the ministry.
In our time, Imtiaz Bhai, I don't think the immigration officers had access to all that information. Maybe this is something being implemented more lately.
At that time, if you remember, they used to ask for your bank statement where you are getting the salary, or they were asking for your pay slips to see. But now they have direct access to these information.
What else the immigration? Not that we are looking for loopholes, but just trying to understand. That yes, maybe the one area that they look into when they're looking to extend the visa is your work history. Is there any other areas? Do they have access to your like Garda system as well, where they can see if you had any offenses?
It is a primary one. Your character is very important. You must be a clean character, and lots of our immigrant community people, they make small mistakes, and then they end up in prosecutions, even though they're on small level like district court level, but they do face difficulties in renewal of their permission.
So what is if I may ask you, I think it's for everybody who may just be enrolled in the study and coming up to a stage where they would be applying for 1G. What are the areas, or what are the different areas that you see people usually getting rejected for 1G? So long working hours. What else? Character.
Well, character, and the other thing is that maybe people get rejected sometimes because they are here for more than 7 years. Because you're allowed to be on a student permission for a maximum of 7 years in the country, and many people do 1 master or 2 master, and they exceed that period, and then they get refused on the basis that you are no longer entitled to be in Ireland. So I think the best is that you avail the work permit option if you are kind of exceeding 7 years or more, or maybe make a freestanding application to the minister to give you
Yeah.
permission here, which I've worked on lots of them recently.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very good point you raise. I actually completely forgot about it. But there are not a lot of students. I think if only if you had come, like only if you had come for undergraduation, then that's your 3 or 4 years gone. Then you had probably like you got a 1 year work permit or 1G. Then you had enrolled yourself into masters. Then you got 2 years. Like, I mean, in what scenarios somebody would be student like for 7 years? Like, what, I mean, even if they do double diploma, double masters, and an undergrad, that still accounts to 7 years.
Well, in fairness, there are good numbers out there. You'll be
Is there?
you'll be
Okay.
surprised to see that student, like I get students who are here for 12 years, for 11 years easily. There's a huge number of students from Malawi or Botswana. They are here for 11, 12 years, and sometimes it's a bit surprise for me personally. But they somehow they manage to be here. There is
Yeah.
student permission, like maybe.
They must be scientists at this
Well,
stage.
some of them like sort of dropped out of immigration system for a few years and then got back. So they would
Yeah.
derail and enrail again to be in the immigration system. So it happened. Well, recently I met a guy, maybe last week, that a guy is here, a student visa for 11 years. And there are a good number of people out there.
But what is this? I think again, it kind of leads us to a very good area, or it leads us to area I also wanted to cover is that undocumented scheme, right? Also, I think there was a time when the government was making everybody legal who giving everybody a stamp 4 if they had been longer than a certain period. Is that still in place where if you're living longer than a certain period, you get a stamp 4 automatically?
Well, that particular scheme you're talking about was one-off scheme, which was for a particular period of January 2018 until January 2022. It was launched back in 2022. It was only one-off, and there was a window open for 6 months to make application for that particular scheme.
Okay.
Which people avail. It's closed. And
Oh, it's closed. You can't do it anymore.
It is long closed, and I don't see that such a scheme open again in near future. It was a very good scheme. Around 6 to 8,000 people, they got their
But
documents.
whoever they had given stamp 4 to, does that mean that they continue to get stamp 4 even regardless of what kind of work they are into?
Yeah, well, they were initially given 2 years, and now they can renew their permission as usual. And
And does that count towards your citizenship as well?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, once you complete your 5 years on that particular permission, you are allowed to apply for citizenship.
Yeah, I think I remember. So when I came to Ireland, there was a time when Mauritius people didn't require a visa to come to this country. So they would just come to Ireland on a tourist visa. Then they go to college, get the letter, go to the immigration office, and convert that into a student visa. I think that's been stopped for a long time as well.
Well, those countries which are on a non-visa required nations list, they can travel to Ireland, and once they're here, they provide the purpose of their trip to Ireland. If they say at the port of entry that we are here for education purpose, so they get 3 months to register with GNAB on stamp 2 basis. So Mauritius is long gone out of that list.
Yeah.
Recently, last week actually, South Africa and Botswana have been removed from that visa-free entry nation list. So Ireland, they do assess this list now and again and see that which country which has a huge influx, or maybe they're sort of different
Abusing the
visa
system,
immigration
yeah.
law.
Yeah.
So
which is the country at the moment where it's on that non requirement of visa, where you see a lot of students coming from there, other than South Africa or Botswana, which has been taken out.
that number is huge. Like South America mostly, or maybe North American like countries like in Central America, say Mexico.
Oh, they still don't. South Americans don't require
No,
visa.
most of them, like Brazil, Chile, Argentina, they don't require visa to come here, and they can come and they can.
But once they get a visa, then all the same rules apply to them in terms of they cannot be student for more than 7 years.
Absolutely, the law is same, but it's all about entering Ireland rather than.
So it's just relatively easier for them.
A lot easier. Like Central America, say Dominican Republic or Jamaica, or those small islands, they're all visa exempted. They can travel to Ireland without visa. It's a huge number, so I can't give you a list. It will take me an hour to give you a full list.
Jesus, I didn't know. I mean, all I knew it was, I thought, I do see a lot of Brazilians, and I do see a lot of South American people here, but I thought the pretty much the same rule applies for them, whereas they have to get a visa before entering Ireland. But that's not the
No,
case.
no,
They can
that's
just,
not the case. They can just travel to Ireland,
okay.
and they're given 3 months at the port of entry, and they can, and as a way of normal process, they can register with GNIB.
So tell me this, if somebody has done a master, maybe they got 1G, they have exhausted their 1G stamp for 2 years, they can go back to masters again for 1 year and then get another 2 year 1G. Is that how it works?
No, it doesn't work this way. If you get a second master, if you are very lucky, you get a stamp 1G for 1 year again. But that has to be within that 7 year bracket. If you
Yes.
exceed the 7 year, then you will not get it any.
So second year doesn't automatically enroll you into 2 year
2 years,
1G.
yeah, exactly. It's 1 year normally. This procedural thing, again, it is not clear in the law. But as a matter of procedure, what I noticed that you normally get it for a year, but you don't get it for the second year, saying that you are already on stamp 1G for 3 years. 2 years previously, and then again for a year after the second
And what
master.
about if somebody does, like they do 2 years masters, sorry, 1 year master, get 2 year 1G, and then enroll themselves into PhD for 4 years? Then they've already exhausted 7 years.
Exactly, so they exceed.
What happens for them? Because PhD is supposed to last 4 or 5 years.
But
So then it's not really fair, is it?
But the permission available for PhD research is different. It is like sort of hosting agreement. So it is not a stamp 2 for them.
Oh, it's a stamp 1, isn't
It
it?
is sort of stamp 1, and they are on hosting agreements normally, rather than stamp 2. So they can definitely exceed the 7 year limit.
Does the PhD stamp 1 then count towards citizenship?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So if they're on stamp, if they're doing PhD, even though the PhD course is generally 4 years, but if they complete it in 5 years because it took them longer for their dissertation, you're saying they're already entitled, or not entitled, but they're like eligible already.
They can seek Irish citizenship, yes. All sort of stamp 1, stamp 3, stamp 4, or stamp 5, these are stamps that count towards your citizenship.
Okay.
Irrespective of the fact how you get it.
Yeah, I didn't know this, so that's probably a new thing for me as well. So let's say somebody's, somebody's in 1G, their employer has decided to give them the work permit, or has, mentioned that they would be happy to kind of go through that process. A lot of our students would be like, you know what, I will not put my employer through a hassle, or I would not request them. I might just capture all the documents and go through this process myself. So it's not trouble for them, and I know that I can do this process. Does that, do you think, is another way of acquiring stamp 1?
Well, in reality, people misinterpret this sometimes that I don't need a sponsorship from my employer.
No. So maybe rephrase my question. So they still require sponsorship.
They do, yeah.
What they are trying to do here, rather than going through their employer for their work permit, they're still getting the letter from the employer, but processing the application by themselves rather than getting their employer to process it.
Well, there are, like in most cases, there are critical documents related to the company business, which the employer will be really reluctant to give it to their employees.
Okay.
So mostly they will either give it to a solicitor, or they do it through their own HR in-house immigration expert to process these work permit application. So the applicant can apply themselves. There's no bar on it.
Yeah.
But the only thing is that the nature of sensitive document required from the company, it is highly unlikely that a company will be willing to share those information with their employee.
Yeah. I think, and we'll come back to there are a lot of changes that have come into existence, or there are a lot of new introduction into the salaries for general work permit. But let's make it clear for our audience, there are two kind of permits, right? Going from 1G to 1, or even if you're moving to this place. There's one general work permit and there's one critical skill work permit. Maybe just give people a very brief understanding of what's the difference between two.
Well, just to give you insight on that, that there are 9 type of different work permit.
No way.
General and critical, they're just the most famous one. There's intra-company transfer, there's reactivation, there's all sort of different type.
Call out all 9, see if you know all 9.
Posting agreement, so
Okay.
intra-transfer, it's got, one is under European law. It is a German name, that one there, and then it's like, so there are 9 different types.
So you can make money 9 ways.
Yeah, so I mean, and then there's a work permit for the dependent family member of the people who hold work permit. So these are 9 type altogether. But critical and general, they're 2 famous. That's why people know about critical and general.
I think they are the ones most of the people would apply for.
The usual route, yeah. So critical is basically for those type of profession where there is a scarcity. The scarcity in finding these people locally. So the requirement for that kind of permit, that kind of profession is huge in the market, and so that's why it's called critical. In general, it's for generic work, like say.
Is solicitor a critical work permit?
You'll be surprised to know solicitor does not fall into the
critical. There are loads of them here already, essentially.
Because in reality, solicitor profession is very local. Normally Irish people are involved in practicing, so
they don't really need.
So this is not something that a stakeholder will push for a
permit.
Yeah, our like say legal executive type, or we have different type of people who work in the firms. They can get like our accountants and our business development manager. They can get critical skills who work with us. But we as a solicitor, no, you can't.
But you can get a general work permit. But anyway, let's finish that one. So critical is there's a list that gets revised probably every couple of years. That which skill is that they are looking to get people who they can't find or they are scarce in Ireland.
Yeah, it's not a list. It's called codified list, right? So the codified list for each category of profession that they fall into the critical skills, and of course it's revised now and again, looking to the need of the market, and the stakeholder do make their proposal to the enterprise that what is exactly going in the market, where is the scarcity. So they kind of pick up those areas and they put into the codified list. Especially the codified list is copied from the UK, and they're following the same rules.
So you would not allow me to say this a list. You will continue to challenge me on that and say codified list.
So it is a list.
You want to use legal terms. You want to throw legal terms at me.
It is a list. It is a codified mean that the code is very important.
Yeah.
Because in application form when you are filling out, there is a question that under which code you are applying. So it's a magical code. If something goes wrong, you can get refused on that. So
Yeah. No, very good. And then the general work permit that's for everybody.
It's very generic. It's not that it's for everybody. It is still there are qualified categories where you get work permit for in Ireland.
No, but I mean, from what I understand, Imtiaz bhai, that once your salary is over certain threshold, once it goes over 60,000, then
64,000.
Yeah, 64. Then anybody can apply really, even if you work in Centra, but you are more than 64.
Exactly. Yeah, there is there's an exemption there. But general work permit is for a general skills, like say you're a restaurant chef, or you're a plumber, or you're an electrician.
Yeah.
Well, some sort of chef now fall into critical as well, but this for generic kind of skills rather than high critical skill.
But the general has to be 64,000 minimum.
No, it's 34,000.
34 or 44? 44.
No, it's 34,000.
For general?
Yeah, general is 34, critical is 38, right?
But that's changed recently.
No, but the change is what you're talking about is just for particular areas rather than for every general work permit.
No, the salary threshold has been changed lately in the last 6 months or 8 months.
Yeah, but it increased. Yeah, it used to be 30. It
I get it.
34.
Yeah. 34 and 38.
But in general work permit, say if you're applying as a plumber, then your requirement is 44,000. You're electrician, those skills, because.
Oh, so there's a different threshold for every, even within the general. For the subcategory also, there's a different requirement.
There is, absolutely, there is. Yeah.
How do you keep up to date with all these changes?
Well, of course.
That's my job. That's how I make money.
That's my job. Plus, I have a very good work permit team, and they're very knowledgeable about this area, and they keep themselves posted about all these changes. So we keep our eyes on website. Like the day we go to our office, we open all these big websites every day and check the news if there is anything going on news. So just to keep ourselves informed.
Yeah, the biggest issue that they have. I think given the current environment, a lot of people are being laid off. Um, if somebody's been laid off, let's say if they've got their stamp one, they've been laid off within 6 months or 8 months, what are their options?
Okay, this is one of the most asked or frequent asked area what you're asking now. That many permit holder they are laid off or they are dismissed for whatever reason. The minute they join the companies, or maybe they fail to complete their probation period for various different reasons. Like the new law, which is the New Employment Permit Act 2024, launched only last month in June. It was to be exact, was 19th of June. It is for particularly it is very helpful on a variety of different areas. But I'll come to this particular question that you used to before this enlargement of this act, you used to have at least 12 months of employment with the employer, which is now reduced to 9 months.
Okay.
So now you can switch over from one employer to another with after completing 9 months.
But just to stop you there, so once you switch after 9 months, you still the next employer, do they have to reapply and then you go on the stamp one again for 24 months before it's converted to stamp four, or is it more like a continuation of where you left your stamp one and then from 9 month onward you can continue with the new employer and then still complete 24 months before it's converted to stamp four?
That's an interesting bit now. So now there will be no new work permit. There will be amendment of the work permit. So this current work permit will be amended to a new employer. So it's upgradation or maybe change over or switch over rather than getting a new work permit. So that's an interesting bit. It's section 27.
Again, you're throwing numbers at me. Okay.
It is section 27 of Employment Permit Act 2024. It was called Employment Permit Bill in 2022, which was enacted recently. It's not launched yet. Just for all your audience, the commencement order still to come.
Yeah, just don't go and mess with your employer just now.
Yeah, well, the commencement order has not been made yet, unless it has been made in last few days. If I'm not aware of, but the commencement order is still outstanding.
Okay.
So
when are they hoping to?
Well, it should be very soon. Or it might have happened in last few days if I'm not aware of, but it should be in a matter of days.
Yeah.
Because it's been enacted, so it is a law now. And there are lots of changes. Not only that you can switch the employer after 9 months. In other changes, the interesting change, like few of them, the interesting one, the requirement for labor market test has been changed as well. So the previous requirement where that you had to have advertisement placed on 2 online platforms, say Jobs Ireland or Jobs.ie, and 1 national newspaper. But now, henceforth, you can only place the ad on 2 online platforms. You don't need a national newspaper anymore, which will reduce the cost for the applicant.
Is that for general work permit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
For critical skill, you don't need it.
You don't need it, exactly.
Yes.
But for labor, this act also covers changes in the labor market test.
Okay, very nice. I didn't know like all these changes coming. What else? So you're saying let's, without even maybe just extend my knowledge to what other changes are in this new act? Well, 2024 section 27. Well, now I am half lawyer as well.
Section 27 and 28 are the major one. The interesting bit is that this act has repealed the previous. It was all scattered. There are lots of work permit regulation in country, but they were all scattered. One act was covering one.
So they've consolidated now.
They've consolidated to one.
Okay.
So it repealed the previous acts, which is very interesting, and it is very good so mostly the whole thing came into new act, which are mostly the previous laws. These changes are major, which we mentioned already.
Yeah. We've been discussing about how you can actually convert your 1G into 1. But there are a lot of people who are actually coming from outside Ireland, who are coming on work permit. I've heard that there is an issue between 2 different departments within Ireland, where one is suggesting that your visa is approved, but once they go to get the actual visa, then they've been told that they can't get the visa. What is the situation there?
Well, to put it accurately, that there are 2 sovereign entities, Department of Enterprise and Department of Justice. So the work permit is administered by Department of Enterprise. So they normally grant you a permit that you are a qualified person to undertake this job in Ireland. And unfortunately, the complaint we are getting from people, say from Pakistan, India, or any other country, that when they apply for a visa, their visa is normally refused on the basis that you do not have the relevant skills or qualification or any other reason, and their visas are refused, and they don't get their visas to come and start their jobs. So it's a recently there's a huge complaints coming from different countries, and we are dealing with lots of appeals at the moment, that we are appealing this decision to the minister. There are two seminal cases covering this issue. One case is called Ashraf, another is Akhtar. There are two seminal cases. So Ashraf is Judge Barrett judgment, and then Akhtar is David Keene's judgment. So in Akhtar, in David Keene's judgment, he suggested that work permit is not a prima facie evidence that you are a qualified person and you can come and undertake the suggested or the proposed employment. And another one is seminal case is in Barrett's J's judgment, Ashraf, where he says that the minister has failed. The certiorari was granted in that particular case, where the judge, where the judgment says that the minister failed to consider the fact that the assessment process has been undertaken by the Minister of Enterprise. So it's kind of clashing kind of opinion coming from two various departments, but they're both sovereign. And Akhtar.
But why are they not streamlining this process? Why don't they just give this to one person who knows that they have granted the permission, and now it's all about just getting a stamp?
Okay, so now many working group have been working together with Department of Enterprise and Minister of Justice, and they're starting something soon, which called single work permit system. So both of these applications will be processed simultaneously. So the minute you get your work permit, your visa is granted as well. You either get both, or you.
It's not in place now, but
exactly.
It will be.
It's not that you invest into one, like you pay 1,000 euro fees for the work permit and then you apply for a visa, and you end up with lots of disappointment. But in coming years, it will take maybe 2 to 3 years. But in coming years, the single permit system will be commenced, and then it will be single process for both work permit and a visa application.
Okay, so I think things are changing for better, right? Things are improving.
Absolutely. If there are various working groups, mostly they're NGOs. They make proposals for changes to upgrade any.
What is the process? So let's say if you don't like some regulation, say tomorrow you say that I don't like it. It's not fair. It's not reasonable. What is the process? Do you go to certain NGO groups, or do you actually put this case towards in court? How quickly do you get the date? What is the process for like some layman, not for solicitor?
Well, actually, Parliament is the body where they legislate laws, and they are making laws. There's a sovereign authority, but normally these kind of administrative policies are normally they are introduced in a shape of administrative policy within the ministry, wherever whichever department the minister belongs to. So of course, if you see any unfairness in any policy, you can challenge it in the court. Challenging a legislation is very difficult, and it is it's uphill process to challenge any legislation in the court. But changing policy is very normal, and then once you bring challenge in the court, and then these small changes are made to certain policies.
But I don't think you don't necessarily need to bring everything to the court. You can just write it to the minister to bring it to their attention that this is something not fair. Like, they must be getting thousands of letters. Like, how do they review that which letter is valid or something they should work? Do they have any system in place for themselves?
In reality, when you write anything to the minister, which is sort of suggesting that the policy may not be equal, or may be unfair, or may be discriminatory, they have their own legal team, and they do take advices from their legal team. I'll share my own experience with you. That recently I wrote to the minister that you are issuing stamp 4 permission to the parent of EU national. Instead of stamp 4, you should be issuing stamp EU fam. Stamp 4 EU fam, and they did not agree with me, and we brought a challenge against the minister. This policy is not written now, but the procedure adopted under European law, we think that it's flawed legally. So we do write to them first. If they agree with us,
So let's say if somebody, what are I think there have been changes recently to that as well. That if you're working here, you're on work permit, then your spouse is already entitled to stamp one or stamp four.
well, the law used to be that if your spouse, the dependent of the STEM critical permission holder, they would have been allowed to work with a STEM 1G. But now it's recently changed to general permission as well. Like if you have general permit and your dependent spouse wants to work, they're entitled to STEM 1G as well. That's the recent
One
change.
G or one.
It's 1G. One is the person who holds the permit, and 1G is a dependent.
I thought if you have one and if you bring your spouse, now you get stamp one as well.
No, they get STEM 1G.
Stamp one G.
STEM 1G. Yeah.
And
There's no kind of practical difference between both.
but what is the stamp difference between stamp 1G that spouse get and the one person gets after completing their masters? They're
Okay.
both called 1Gs.
Yeah, they're both 1G. So one is dependent 1G and one is post-study 1G. So
But how we
both gave you entitlement to work full-time in Ireland.
okay. And then when does that 1G as a spouse count towards your citizenship or no?
It does. It count towards citizenship in both situations, even if you get it after your post-study or if you get it
Are you
after.
sure?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So post study, you're getting 2 year permit to work, and you're telling me it's all. Even though you don't get the job in the 2 years, you might get a job at the end of that 1G. You're telling me that 2 years still counted towards your
That's
citizenship.
absolutely reckonable permission. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It was not in a public domain till recently, but it is absolutely reckonable, and we have been using it since long
So I
for
think
our
for
applications.
our audience, so if you have been gotten 1G after you have finished your studies, that's 1G is counted towards your citizenship 5 years counting. I didn't know. I think you can follow us to learn more, and then we'll continue to bring things like that to your attention.
Well, there is e-vetting process, and there is a certain declaration you give to the minister. It includes family law declaration as well. So if there is any allegation against you, which is there could have been a protection order against you, barring order, or any other type of orders, they do affect, and the minister do ask you questions, even though the implication is very low. But if there is there
Strong
is certain
evidence.
orders made against you, they are considered in the process of citizenship, and you will have to make declaration, and then you are normally invited to make representation to the
I thought
minister.
you're not as long as you're not convicted, everything is fine. But you're now telling me that allegations can have an impact as well.
No, well, it's not only conviction. Bad character is defined by different way. So there could be a civil allegation against you. Like say, for example, we have seen a number of refusal in recent past that people have been refused citizenship because they've been alleged in marriage of convenience in the past, or they provided fraudulent documentation to the minister. So they were never convicted, they were never prosecuted, but they're still refused. They're still bad character. So character does not only conviction. It is not limited to convictions only.
Okay.
It could be any civil wrong.
Yeah. But so let's say if this person doesn't get the, again, I think we are just kind of going into, but I'm going to ask this and close this off. If one person doesn't get the citizenship based on the character or based on whatever the situation is, you can appeal it, of course. But let's say if your appeal gets rejected as well, then you continue to remain on your stamp 401, or is that the only option then you're left with? Or you
Well,
can bring it to European court and then continue to fight your case forever?
well, just for your audience, there's no right of appeal when it comes to citizenship. So
But
refuse
there
it.
is no right
No,
of
there's no
appeal.
right. You can judicially review it in the High Court, but there's no right of appeal. The best solution is that if you see merit in your case, the best way is to challenge it in the High Court through your solicitors. And the second option is that you wait for some time and make a fresh application. But there's no right of appeal against citizenship refusal. And most applications are refused on the basis of character.
Okay, that's the highest one, is
There's the
it?
highest one at the moment, yeah. But there's no right of appeal at all. The minister do give you a fair play opportunity of fair play letter sent normally to the applicant to explain what happened surrounding any allegation or conviction, and you are entitled to make submission, and then the minister considered all the information before her.
That's very interesting. I thought you can always appeal everything in life, even the you can appeal a murder if you're being convicted or being allegedly uh, allegedly not
Well,
convicted, but you've been
well,
there's allegation
well,
against
those
for
things are
you against
severe.
murder.
Those things have a huge implication, like you can lose your liberty. So that's something extremely serious. Yeah, there is right of appeal most in immigration sphere as well, but this particular application is not appealable.
Okay,
Citizenship, yes.
very good. I think so. You always should be a good character anyway. That's given, right? So we are not trying to kind of reinvent the wheel here, but at the same time, you also want to make sure that that you don't do anything silly, or if you have been framed into something, then you give the right explanation to make your case stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. If there are any, like, we are human end of the day, you might have broken a traffic light, you might have, over, over speeding or, small things. These things happen. The only thing you make a frank declaration to the minister what happened, and normally they're good. If you declare your offenses and explain it properly, then you do get your citizenship, because those minor offenses are disregarded normally. But if you are involved in something big, then of course the minister will be concerned about your character, and then the refusal is a natural result of your application if you are involved in something very serious.
Yeah. So when somebody can come to you at what stage? When they're getting letters from minister, then you can draft a response for them in order to make their case.
Well, ideally, if you see that there may be something in the background, uh, it's an ideal situation that you do the process through a
From the
solicitor.
outset.
Yeah, but in case you get fair play letter from the minister about any convictions or any civil wrong you did in the past, it's very good to approach a solicitor and let a solicitor deal with the minister, because you may not be as a lay person, you may not be able to explain, especially what is your legal rights in a particular situation. So it's advisable for those people with a bit of issues in the background to use solicitor for their citizenship application.
Yeah. I think we've covered pretty much everything, Imtiaz bhai. I think, what do you think? What topics are left that we can maybe meet again? As we said, we are trying not to get rid of each other very soon. So, what are the other topics? You can tell our audience, look, we have covered today students. What do you think could possibly be our next topic?
Well, we can cover something like European laws and different type of stamp 4. We can cover stamp 5, maybe stamp 6. There are lots of topic we can cover in future. But I think today we talked a lot about work permit students and their problems. We talked about citizenship. So there will be something new coming anyway, because the laws are
Yeah.
changing. There is any new law coming, we can cover it and we can pass the information to your audience.
As long as laws are changing, you're in your job.
Well, in fairness, lawyers and doctors, they're always needed.
Yeah.
Like doesn't matter how the economy is, how things are,
Have you
and we.
ever watched a program called Suits?
The
Yeah.
suit is a drama and it's a very famous one. I used
You
to
know the
watch.
guy
I used
who's
to
not.
watch it a lot.
Yeah.
I used to watch it a lot in my college time. But it's very good you discuss the suits, because I want to tell your audience that the lawyer job is not as glamorous as it looks in suits. It's lots of hard work, guys. You don't think that the way lawyers act in the
Yeah.
suits, that's the actual real life of the lawyers. No, that's not the case. It's not as glamorous as it looks in the suits.
It's like actor and actresses. They
Yeah.
put in like 17, 18 hours, but all you see on that TV is like those 45 minutes edited video where they look
Yeah, so they,
glamorous.
they, they make it glamorous, but it's not as glamorous. The legal field is not as glamorous as shown in the suits. That's my conclusion.
I
It is a
mean,
difficult field. It
yeah,
is very
yeah, yeah.
competitive. You need lots of hard work. There are lots of expectation. There are lots of demands from the client. Managing demands is not easy. Managing expectation is not easy.
I think the one thing, and I think we're gonna finish it off on this. You know, and I think this is one issue a lot of people find it difficult to comprehend is um, every time they call a solicitor they expect them to just answer the phone and answer their query there and then, And I know every case is different, and sometimes you can be also sued if you're giving somebody wrong legal advice. So I think maybe for our audience, you can tell them that it's not about just picking up the phone. It's all about doing all the fact finds, be able to capture all the information, and there is a due diligence and a process in place to kind of get your answer, and it takes time. It's not an instant response.
Yeah, well, it's very good question. Apart from a legal discussion we had, so number one, the person who is answering your call, guys, they're receptionists normally. They're not lawyers to answer your question. So please don't ask them legal questions. Our receptionists are being forced to answer certain questions and they refuse, and sometimes people put on our Google that we are not helpful. The second thing is that me as a solicitor, I may not be available to talk to you, especially if there's something emergency, urgent. Of course, I'll be available. I'll be standing beside you. But the best thing, like when it comes to my practice, if you want to reach to me, the best thing is to email me. I like email because we keep the trail, the record of all the communication we have with you. Everything is in writing. It helps everybody. So please, before you picking the phone, just think whether this matter can be solved by sending an email. So please do email us rather than making calls. And when you call, the answer is from a receptionist. So please don't ask legal question, and then don't put it on our Google that we are not answering you because we are not helpful. So it's not the case, because those people who are answering your phone, they're not trained to answer your legal question, and you might get wrong answer, and that might not be helpful for your case.
Thank you, Imtiaz bhai, again for joining. I think we enjoyed the conversation with you, as well as the chirping of birds really helped us to make that conversation smoother.
Yeah, these lovebirds, I really like them, and when they speak to each other, these sounds are amazing and very relaxing for me personally. So thanks very
They,
much
they
for
are not
having me.
your they're not your client noises. That's why.
Well, these chattering is just like something that is bring a calmness and
Yeah.
you a bit of relaxation. But anyway, thanks for having me today, Pankish. It's
Thanks for
always
having me. This
well,
is your house, Imtiaz
yeah,
bhai.
yeah. It's always a pleasure to have me in your podcast, because you're doing a great job, and I watch your other program as well. The way you are promoting our South Asian communities, it's a great job, and I'm sure many people will be benefited from your hard work.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing all the information.
Okay.